law that bars abortions at 15 weeks into the pregnancy. Kathy Herod of the Center for Arizona Policy tells AFN it's an appropriate move to make.
At 15 weeks, the unborn child has fully formed noses, lips, eyelids, eyebrows. They suck their thumbs. They feel pain. They can flip inside the mother's womb. We know that an unborn child is deserving of life from the moment of conception, but especially at a stage of pregnancy like 15 weeks.
Although not yet signed into law by Governor Doug Ducey, AFN asked Herod about the possibility of a legal challenge against it that would end up before the Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals.
A lawsuit will depend on what the U.S. Supreme Court does. We all are waiting for the U.S. Supreme Court to decide the Mississippi case that limits abortions to 15 weeks. Most believe that the court will uphold Mississippi's 15-week limit. When that happens, Arizona's 15-week limit will be good law.
That's because the nation's top court is expected to rule by the end of June, and the Arizona measure will not go into effect until after that. The Ninth Circuit cannot overrule the Supreme Court. I'm Charlie Butts.
A new publication from American Legislative Exchange Council, or ALEC, ranks America's best and worst governors. Now, this is due to things such as executive policies, economic performance, and fiscal policy while in office. Kristi Noem, Spencer Cox, Ron DeSantis, Brad Little, and Bill Lee are some of the best governors, according to ALEC. Some of the worst governors include Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan, J.B. Pritzker of Illinois, and Gavin Newsom of California. In final news, a billionaire believes TikTok will change the way we watch sports. Here's Fox's Kristen Goodwin.
Mark Cuban says TikTok-like presentation of sports is the future of sports media, a way to keep younger fans watching.
Because we're not going to get our 16-year-old or 12-year-old or 15-year-old to sit in for a full game.
The Dallas Mavericks owner claiming during an interview on the Colin Cowherd podcast it could be the saving grace for Major League Baseball, saying TikTok uses AI to present the things you're interested in, adding baseball is actually the perfect sport to present every at-bat.
In His image, delighting in God's plan for gender and sexuality.
I loved it. I loved how biblically sound it was, all the scripture to back it up.
The testimonies were very powerful.
If it's a prodigal child that has just run away or one that's caught up in same-sex attraction, there's hope in Jesus.
In His Image is now available on DVD and can be purchased in bulk to pass out to friends and family. Order today by visiting afastore.net.
You know, as Christians, we have to understand and be real with where we are.
That's what we have to see first, individually.
And where our mindset is and what we desire.
Airing the Addisons.
I think what God is really calling us back to, it's those individual personal revivals in our own lives where we're like, oh Lord, what have we done? We have minimized you.
Promoting truth, wisdom, and empowerment.
As the church, man, we should be on the forefront of making disciples, of indoctrination and godly things.
If we don't train our kids, they will not be able to stand.
Airing the Addisons.
On American Family Radio, thank you so much for listening. I'm Miki.
And I'm Will.
And J-Mac, Sherry B and J-Mac are on tap. And there's a certain order that you have to say it in because it rhymes. And I'm really particular about rhyming things.
Yeah, you are.
Sherry V and J Mac are on tap, helping us navigate the show. And watch. I'm going to do something. I don't know that I've done this before, at least not like this. I'm opening the phone line straight away because I said yesterday.
They ain't going to be ready for that. So we might not get no callers.
Well, that's fine.
We're not going to get no callers.
That is.
You like that?
With your grammar. It's fine. We love you anyway. Your children love you. We translate for you. We understand.
Y'all understand.
It's totally fine. 888-589-8840. This is Gumbo Friday, which means that everything within reason goes in the pot. Now, if it's not reasonable, we say politely, get that out of here.
Like wieners.
No, I'm just kidding.
No wieners.
No, that can go.
Not in the gumbo.
That's a meat.
It is. Some people put it in there, but I'm like,
I think it's fine.
No
all
corn.
beef hot dogs, no corn.
No
for
corn.
sure, not corn.
Okay, no corn.
No, they're the only vegetables that are allowed. Well, I want to be careful because I've heard people refer to these vegetables. There are 3 vegetables, and so wrongly they have referred to these vegetables in a way that could I don't know, makes me uncomfortable. But anyway, onions, bell pepper, and celery, and just a little bit of celery, not too much. That can go in your gumbo, but you're not putting corn in there. You're not. Now it depends on what type of gumbo you're making. If you're making like an okra gumbo, then you can put okra in there, of course, because that's what it's called. And then I don't know, maybe if you want to put corn in that.
No, you don't. You don't. You don't want to put corn in there. No.
Anyways, so that's why I say within reason. What we like to do on Friday is to do just a tad bit of a lighter show, which means that we recap, but you really kind of determine the direction that we go in.
Right.
If it kind of takes off, like we had a bug show that I never would have imagined.
Oh man, that was hilarious.
In about 15 years of doing radio, I never would have imagined that we would have done a whole show on bugs. And I kept trying to move away from it, but people just kept calling in wanting to talk about the bugs. And it turns out that it was enjoyed. Yeah. Like, you would think that it would just kind of creep people out, but it didn't. People loved it, and they had insight and wisdom, and they loved the bugs. And so anyways, it could turn into another one of those shows. You will determine that.
It could.
Or
I doubt it, though, because we've been talking about some I guess we normally do talk about some pretty heavy stuff. So that bug show did catch us off guard. Totally. But man, lately, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
It's been,
It's been, the shows have been heavy. And let's just do a recap here, because if you've been listening all week and you've thought, oh man, if that girl would just open the phone lines up, I'm going to say something. This is your time, 888-589-8840. On Monday, we were asking the question, what if cowards lead? What if cowards lead? And we were looking at affirming sin by some conservative leaders and how these people become poor representation for us as Christians. We have to make sure we know how to draw the line. One of the articles I used sort of as a talking point there was conservatives celebrating David Rubin and his partner and their surrogacy announcement.
Yeah.
And conservatives are just, they were
applauding.
lighting up.
They were like,
I mean, they're just, hey, congratulations, this is great. Like, it's like, whoa, dude, wait, what? Like, what's going on?
Right.
So anyway, we talked about that on Monday. Then on Tuesday, #Disney walked away. We continued to look at what's going on with the Disney company and how, good grief, these people know how to pledge their allegiance to the causes that they love, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to maintain, I guess, their virtuous position. But then we as Christians, we're just sort of like, I don't know if we really make a difference if we just do anything. So then we don't. And it's interesting to me, and I was making this point when we talked about this on Tuesday, that it's interesting that we make the argument that it may not make a difference if we do anything, so let's not, rather than it may not make a difference, but let's do it anyway. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. There's a certain amount of cowardice present. You got to admit it. Like when you say it may not change anything, so let's not do it, versus the other side. Right. Those who hate God saying, hey, it may not change anything, but you know what's going to get us closer? Let's make a dent.
They have their pedal to the metal.
That's it.
And they don't stop.
That's it.
All gas, no brakes.
Oh, wow.
I'm serious. That's how they go.
Hey.
All gas, no brakes.
Man, you could unpack that. You could unpack that a little bit. Yeah, but it's so true. It is so true. Then on Wednesdays, you had an amazing time with Will the Great, where he asked the question, what does it mean to be culture proof?
Yes.
What does it mean to be culture proof? Man, we ourselves are culture proof by God's grace and by the power of the word of God. And also we are culture proofing our kids. And so we say that it's both a noun and a verb. It's what you are, and it's also something that you do. And so we hope that you will join us in that. And then yesterday, faith without friction is a facade. Can we really even call it Christianity if we don't get pressed in on?
Man.
If there's no suffering, is it even the walk? Like, is it even the thing? This is what has always characterized Christianity. Now, I would say this. I thought about this after the show. It's quite possible that in some of our suffering, we hadn't realized that it was suffering because we figured that this was just our reasonable response to God. So I want to allow space for that. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, it could have been that you found yourself in like a Romans 12 type situation, that you present your body as a living sacrifice. And that, so you made difficult choices, but you didn't think of it in the sense of like, I'm actively suffering. You just thought, well, this is the result of what it means to follow Christ. And so I want to be generous in that, because I know that as believers, we make difficult decisions. Now, if you're not in that category and life's just been easy for you, wish some of y'all could see my face.
They can.
I'm doing my New Orleans if it's been easy for you, can I just tell you that the enemy only really attacks the opposition? So if it's just been smooth underfoot, then I might be walking in the wrong direction. All right. So that's our recap of the week. If the phone lines are open, let us shape the show with comments from our listeners. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we have one that's ready.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Sherry B just sent us something to our phones to explain it, but we can go to, let's see. Let's go to Jesse in Texas. Hi, Jesse. Oh, hold on. Go again, Jesse. I'm sorry. Hi, Jesse.
Hi.
Go ahead.
You there?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, we're here.
I was wondering if y'all could do a show on Cinemix.
On Cinemix?
Yes.
Never heard of it, but
it's a process where they use aborted fetal cells to taste food.
Oh.
You know, we didn't do an entire show on this, but several years ago, we actually did cover this. And if my memory serves me right, it was one of our morning shows where we actually went through a list of companies that use this. And I didn't remember the name of it. And in fact, I'm not even sure if we described it in that way, but we talked about companies that used aborted fetal tissue to help with the taste or the flavoring of food. And I'm kind of fuzzing on the details, but I will tell you that what came out of that was that there was a certain coffee creamer that I was using that I stopped using immediately because it was on the list. Now I'd have to do some more digging. This was many years ago, but we actually did do a show on that. And then we used that show for our own family to kind of go through our pantry and fridge.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised some of the products that are on the list.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll have to look that up. I'll have to look that up and see if we can do another show. Maybe time to revisit that.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your call,
Thank you,
Joshua. We appreciate
Jesse.
it. Jesse. Sorry. Thanks,
All
Jesse.
right. Let's go to Van in North Carolina. Hi, Van.
Yeah.
Yes. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me? I'm on speaker. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
Okay. Thank God for you all, for your forthrightness, your energy. First, I wanted to say that's a point. And then quickly, because I know I won't be able to get on, I've got a rich background. I'm 75 years old. But to your point about our children, I'm 75 years old, and I direct my children middle-aged like you. Yes, you take them to Disney, but please, you've been there 2 or 3 times. Take them to the Creation Museum and the Ark Encounter. You brought them up in Christian faith, and even you've been blessed to send them to a Christian school. Now, you must lest they lose that because the world is after them. Take at least one time before my oldest grandson there gets out of high school to the Ark Encounter and the Creation Museum.
Yeah.
And when you round that corner, what a witness to see that great ark there.
Yeah.
If I'd had that, I might not have ran off the cliff into evolution, which I was tempted because I'm a scientist, a master's degree in biology, chemistry, and geology. Time I got through, I was a Christian going in, but I was a confused Christian, even though I might have been a sophisticated scientist. And that's what's going on today, Aaron, Mika, and Will Addison, in our world. The Barna Report, as you know, last year, 2021, said that 54% of our last generation, millennials and Zs, are now believe in atheistic evolution, naturalistic evolution, and no God, versus 46% creation and God. No wonder we have this stuff around here. No wonder our kids are not in your church.
Wow.
Van, brother, you have said so much. There is so much packed in what you have just said. In fact, no lies detected. I will just say this.
Man.
Okay, well, man, there is so much. So you cannot teach our kids that what they believe is a myth and then expect them to come out still believing it, right? So that's one of the problems that we're facing. But I think I heard you say that you have a master's in biology. I'm wondering if you're busy over the next few months. I know a woman who needs a biology teacher.
I think she's up for the
I mean, you might have to.
What'd you say, Van?
Work with some other justices. Could
let me address that? You're word gifted like I am. Let me say this. Yes, I've been involved in the Research Triangle Park with a group to hold their faith, either atheists coming to faith or Christians to hold. It's called Triangle Association for the Science of Creation. Good objective science that supports Genesis so that you can reach, with good objective science, so that you can reach Christ in the New Testament. That's why we don't get many new Christians, because they've already given up. If you don't start with Genesis, just like with our Constitution, I heard the gentleman Rick in the show before, we've got to start back with the Constitution under God, that it was developed, in our country under God, or we're going to lose our country. And yes, bringing up politicians, we need to bring up conservative Christians, or conservatives, yes, preferably Christians, so that they'll continue to lead our nation. That's our responsibility and duty as Christians. And we've got to have that knowledge and background. We've got to get it back in our children through adults. And I've developed curricula, like you point to, that to help people from all backgrounds to trust Genesis with good objective science all the way to Christ.
Oh, man, this is so good. I'm enjoying this. Let me just ask you this before we let you go, Van. I'm just curious. Do I need to have a degree in biology? Do I need to be a biologist to know what a woman is?
Absolutely not. In order to understand the objective science,
yes.
Which is that. They've had that. Most people these days. And God says in the end days, there'll be increased knowledge, but there'll be falling away like the days of Noah. But we still have a positive bent. If we, like you, will go forward with the gospel of Christ, there will still be those accepted, and the kingdom will be increased. Yes, though, it will gradually on that curve go down if we don't do that, Mika and Will. And thanks again. But as you go, let me mention this website so that people can come in your person that I've shared there, and with PhD guys and gals, medical physicians, etc., that address these issues about the take the shot or not, this, that, and the other. We need to get down the same middle road there too, not the extreme right or extreme left, but under God's road.
What's the website, Van? We're going to hit this break real quick. What's the website?
Yes.
Go ahead. What's the website?
Oh, TASC-creationscience.org.
Say that one more time.
TASC-creationscience.org.
All right, we'll take a break and be right back.
When it comes to what the Bible teaches, you have two choices: embrace what it says or rationalize it away. This is Jim Garlow. It's what we do, isn't it? We embrace what the Bible teaches, or we rationalize, ignore it, hoping it'll go away. Stand up and fight for what you believe. Admittedly, you have to pick your battles. Some things just aren't worth defending. But your faith, your family, your freedoms, they're worth defending. When what God has ordained and established is diminished, when you're being forced to compromise, stand up. Government-funded abortions, injustice, misinformation, lies, destruction of marriage and family, stand up. And here's the kicker. When I speak up of truth and justice, it's not just based on your definition or mine. It's a definition that is based on God and His timeless and eternal Word. There's more at wellversedworld.org.
Hey, it's Michael Woolworth with Bible League International. I know we're all praying for Ukraine, and Eastern Europe is a part of the world where Bible League has a very strong presence. In nearby Albania, Pastor Ephraim is preaching away one Sunday. There's a ruckus at the door. Who is it? 20 militant Muslims. They storm the pulpit, drag this man down the aisle. His family, many in the church who are new converts, are just horrified. They take this man to the front lawn where they beat him nearly to death. You know what his crime is? Very simply that he has been patiently and winsomely sharing Christ with Muslims and atheists, and they are coming to place their faith in Jesus Christ. But the leaders in those movements are not happy. You know, when I ask him, how can we pray for you, brother? He did not say, pray for an end to our suffering. He says, pray that we'll see those around us as the mission field and more will come to Christ. $5 sends a Bible, $100 sends 20 to Eastern Europe today. Call 800-YES-WORD, 800-YES-WORD. 800-YES-WORD, or give it sendbiblesnow.org. That's sendbiblesnow.org.
Here's some great news. If you missed the deadline to sign up for health insurance, or if, like a lot of people, you just have a plan you're not happy with, you still have a choice. It's called MediShare. It's a Christian healthcare sharing program. There are more than 400,000 members now, and they love it. In fact, MediShare has double the customer satisfaction rate compared to that of health insurance. And MediShare really is the gold standard when it comes to healthcare sharing. It's been around more than 25 years. Members have shared more than $4 billion of each other's medical bills. Plus, MediShare is for you. It has saved its members billions by advocating on their behalf. Best of all, the typical savings for a family is around $6,000 a year. So if you think you're stuck with a high-cost health plan that doesn't have much to offer, think again. MediShare has a 98% customer satisfaction rating, and you are invited to be part of it. Call now. 833-44-BIBLE. That's 833-44-BIBLE. 833-44-BIBLE.
When the praise going up, it's coming down, coming down. Praise is going up, blessings coming down. Heaven now resounds, I echo the sound, yeah. I got peace and freedom, no, this shame won't keep me down. I searched all around, still one thing I found, yeah.
Okay, welcome back to Aaron the Addisons on American Family Radio. It's the Friday edition. It's our gumbo show. Everything gets to go in the pot. That makes sense. So we appreciate you joining us. I'm Miki.
And I'm Will, and that's Pilo Jetson with Praises Going Up.
Sherry B and J Mac on tap, helping us navigate the show. We've opened the phone lines, 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. We just got off the line with our brother Van,
yes,
listening to us in North Carolina, and he was telling us about the Triangle Association for the Science of Creation. So I went to enter it in just to kind of make sure that I heard correctly, and it turns out I didn't. So I had to rewrite what I thought I heard. It's T as in Tom, TASC-creationscience.org. TASC, T as in Tom, and hopefully C sounds like C as in cat. I don't know how to do those, alphabet. I don't know. -creationscience.org. So you could go to that website and you can check it out. All right. Well, the great. Let's go back to the phone lines. 888-589-8840. Where do we go?
Let's go to TJ in Oklahoma. Hi, TJ.
Hello, can y'all hear me all right?
Yes, go ahead.
Go right ahead.
I just wanted to say, first of all, I'm a father of 5 kids, and my wife and I are going to take them to the Ark Encounter for our vacation this summer.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Great.
I just wanted to say I've worked in different aspects of the oil field between Oklahoma and Texas, and I will say that out of all the oil that's been explored in the United States has enough oil in reserve and what's been explored, and they know that's under the ground that they can get to cut off any other getting oil for anywhere else, and we can survive on our own using our own oil, producing it for everything else like that, gas, petrol, oil for your car, everything else like that, for 100 years without getting it from anywhere else.
Wow.
Okay? But I've told people this, and they're like, well, that doesn't really make sense. But the Democrats don't make sense anyway. But they're playing the long game. They're right. In my aspect, what their game is they want to use up everybody else's oil. That way they have to come to us to get their oil.
Is that what you think?
It's going to take a long time. That's what I think they're doing.
That's interesting. I'll tell you what I think. Now that's interesting, and I don't disagree with you. I would see your guess, and then I would just add this. Okay, I would just add this to it. I think that they are revealing their hand. I think they really try to strap a wealthy nation to bring it to its knees. I actually don't think that the aim is, let us have other nations coming to us. I think it is to diminish the footprint of the United States in the world. And I think part of what you see them desiring to do is to create a very dependent nation made up of very dependent people. So TJ, let me just make my point. You may be familiar with some of the stories out there. You've got California saying, and we're going to give $400 to every registered vehicle owner because, gas prices are so high. And then you've got Congress, you've got some members of our Congress saying, hey, maybe we need to give Americans $300 a month because, gas prices are so high. And it's like, oh yeah, that's the only solution that we can come up with. Let's not tap into the resources that we have here. Let's just give people money. So what's the end game for that? Like what's the reason that people do that? So they create zombies. They create people, excuse me, who are dependent on the government.
Right.
Who are addicted to government handouts.
Yeah, it's about power.
That's what we're dealing with.
It's about power and control,
Yes.
And just like you said, if you have all those reserves, you have everything that you need right there, man, why wouldn't you just drill? If you need more, why wouldn't you, be dependent on yourself instead of these countries who can't stand you, who chants talking about debt to America. Like, why are we getting stuff from them and having partnerships with them? Man, it's sinister in my eyes. Like, it's on purpose and it's sinister.
I think it's a combination of a lot of different factors. I think it may be what you and I were just saying. I think it may be what our brother TJ just alluded to. I think it's also the fact that when you look at President Biden and you look at who is really sort of driving his agenda, because, I mean, respectfully, President Biden is not really at the wheel. I mean, right? So you've got the whole green worship that's happening, that we alone will save the planet and all of these things. And so how do you pledge your allegiance to that and to those initiatives? And but then at the same time say that we're going to drill, or that we're going to use the resources that we have in this country. It causes a great conflict.
Right.
And so I think that's another part of the reason that we are here. And maybe, other people can add to that as well. But anyway, I appreciate you calling in, and I appreciate you presenting that information. I was listening to an interview earlier this week where there was either an economist, I think it was an economist, who was talking about that we are an independent nation, but our president does not allow us to be as it pertains to oil. So anyway, thank you so much for your call, TJ. Appreciate it. Will the Great, where do we go next?
All right, let's go to Michael in Florida. Hi, Michael.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Great points you just made. I've got 3 or 4 things I want to say here. But every time I call first, I got to know, how are Brenda and Bob doing in counseling?
Man.
Well, Brenda and Bob went to marriage counseling, and they're doing really well. They funny. Get along, just super. I mean, they're doing great. But to the Brenda and Bobs out there who are still listening.
Right.
You guys can do better as well. Anyway, thank you so much for asking about them, Michael. We appreciate it. Those are our alter egos, guys.
Go ahead, Michael.
Okay, so all right, I had about 2 or 3 other points I wanted to make. I felt that Disney was going downhill back in the 80s when Michael Eisner took over, and they started indulging in things like Roger Rabbit. That is no way a kid's cartoon. Okay. Now, I don't know if that was specifically Disney, but I think somehow that they had their fingerprints in it. The way Disney has affected me is they bought out Marvel, okay? And I've always been a superhero junkie. So that's where it's a cut to me, because it's like I'll stick with the old school stuff, but anything new, it's like no. There was another point I wanted to make, though, too, and I got to be careful how I say this because I don't want to say anything inappropriate on the air. But, in the Bible, it says to take every thought captive.
Right.
And my father was in the house, but I wasn't allowed to interact with him. My mom is the one that wore the pants in the family. And I was in a house full of women. So my dad would never have talked about those kind of things anyways. So, and I resented the church, okay? And I still kind of do. Because I think it is in Deuteronomy 20 or 23 when it talks about uncleanness in the camp. Now, I may be taking that out of context, but I still, to this day, don't know how I would deal with a kid or a young person or anybody that may not be engaging in sexual intercourse with, another person. But what do you say? I mean, I'd rather say, like I said, be careful here. Self-gratification is better than anything else,
I understand
especially if there's no outside stimulants.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a big question.
That's a big question. And I understand why he's being careful. But I would point out that that's sin as well. And because it still is lust. You're still dealing with lust. It still goes back to the desires of the heart, and even it goes back to what's being thought about. So those things, is they try to cloak that stuff, even in schools, to try to make it sound like, oh, it's okay to do that. No, it's not. Not according to the word of God. Now, you won't see like that laid out like that, but you will see about lust. You will see about your own sinful desires of your heart, about what you think about, So all that stuff plays into that particular sin that you're talking about. And how would you explain that to, someone? I would have to go back to the scriptures and talk about the things, those desires that come from within. The Bible is clearly laying it out that comes from the heart, and those things are prohibited. They're still a part of lustful thoughts and actions, and so. But I understand what he's saying on that, because this culture is like, oh, that's fine. Just, you're not hurting anyone,
Yeah, man, I think you're making an excellent point here, Will the Great, even in how this is being taught in schools. And I hope that our listeners were able to trek with our brother Michael to get to the heart of his question. By the way, I think you did a fantastic job of being very delicate in handling this conversation, because some things can, we can just flippantly say, and then you injure people in other ways. So I really want to say I appreciate that. But I think this is what we're dealing with. And it's to your point, Will, as you're talking about what's being taught in schools. So if we reduce God's standard, right, if we in ourselves, we reduce God's standard by creating a new type of righteousness, right? And then we say to ourselves, hey, but at least when they're doing this, they're not doing that. Do you see what I'm saying? So we have a sliding scale because we have refused to press toward the mark. Yeah. So you move the goal, and then you say, hey, here's your new aim. It's just your actions. Right. It's just that particular act. So it doesn't take into consideration the attitudes of the heart, the thoughts and the intents of the heart, which, by the way, the Bible says that the word of God searches. So it's not just what you do outwardly, but it's the thoughts and the intents of the heart that the word of God is separating and parsing out and searching and even convicting us of. And I think, to your point, Will the Great, which I think you beautifully said, you cannot deny where a person's mind is, where a person's thoughts are. And I think when the Apostle Paul is dealing with the acts of our sinful nature, the things that don't get listed there when he says, and the like. Right. And things like this. So I've heard you teach on this before, Will the Great, and you've said, so if your thing is not listed there, it's included in the like. Right. Or in the things like these, know. And so I would put this for sure in that category. It is not purity. Yes. Please don't be deceived by that. Anyone listening who caught this conversation, that type of self-gratification is not purity. Right. It is not the absence of sin because it doesn't involve another person. Right. That is a great deception from the enemy. And it has worked, with other things to weaken the church. That's so right. Anyway, Michael, thank you so much for that call. I really appreciate it. Will the Great, where do we go next?
All right, let's go to, Audra. Audra in Tennessee. Hi, Audra.
Hey, how are you all?
Hello.
Doing fine.
I want to let y'all know July 9th of 2020 was the first time I heard your show, and I've been listening ever since.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
And I listen to everybody on AFR now because of you all. So, and I have my aunt to thank for that, because she told me I need to listen to this powerful couple. So I've been listening ever since.
Wow.
Man, thank you.
Well, we appreciate you. A couple of things I need to ask. I just became over the youth department at my church, and I was listening. Maybe, I don't know how long ago it was, and you all were talking about a speech over the 10 Commandments, and I remember thinking, and I had just started being the youth minister over there, or youth department director, and I said, that would be neat to do. A couple of weeks ago, a lady come into the church and said, Audrey, we need to do a speech contest for our kids, and that came back. So I've been trying to find that, and I can't find any information on it. So if you all can give me some information on that, exactly, how you're doing that, and then if you can suggest some books that I can, have the youth to read.
Ooh, oh, okay. there's a couple of things. To the first part of your question, I want to give you an email address for Pastor Joseph Parker, who oversees that ministry outreach to really equip kids with memorizing the 10 Commandments. And he's done the speech writing contests associated with that. And his email address is jparker@afa.net, jparker@afa.net. And I know that Pastor Joseph will be more than happy to get back with you on getting involved in that and learning how your church can implement that as well. So that's something that we're really excited about, even get fun T-shirts and things like that. As far as books go for kids, man, so we have so many books that so I'll tell you a series right now that our daughters, well, the 13-year-old read it and the 15-year-old now is reading it. And it's actually from Answers in Genesis. It's called Truth Chronicles. And it's for teenagers. So it's like, I would say 12 up to 16 or 17. But it's a series that provides apologetics, teaching kids how to defend the faith and deal with skeptics. But it's written in a way that is really engaging for them. We have a lot of other technical resources that we have our kids read.
And I would say even this is not a book, but the Truth Project is something that it's
a great video resource.
Yeah, it's a video resource, and it answers a lot of questions that not only teenagers have, but just people in general. The Truth Project, that's a video presentation, and it has a bunch of a lot of different weeks you can go through it. It's not just one sit down type thing, but it covers a lot of topics.
Yes. The Truth Project, you can buy it. You can go through it with your church. You can watch the video and then you can discuss it together as a group. I think that's another. Here's what I would love. I would love, if you don't mind, Audra, would you please email us Addisons@afr.net, right. Addisons@afr.net, because when I'm put on the spot here, my mind just goes blank. And I've got all these resources that I'd be happy to share with you. I'd be happy to just kind of walk my fingers along our bookshelf for some of the books that we've gotten for our kids that I believe are a blessing. And I'd love to share that with you. But right now, just off the top of my head, I'm drawing a blank. So if you would just email us, Addisons@afr.net. And this is for anyone listening, Addisons@afr.net. What we'll do is we have an existing list, and I think it was just for church history books, because people were saying, hey, what church history books are you reading? And we put together this list. So we'll just add to that, and then we'll send it to you. And that way you can get started and add to your library these resources. All right, we got to grab the break. American Family Radio, Aaron the Addisons. We'll be right back.
AFR programming is now available on Alexa.
You're joking, right?
Nope, not joking.
Seriously?
Yep, this is not a drill.
Wait a minute. No way.
There's a way, the Alexa way. So if you just happen to miss your favorite shows, no worries. You can now listen to each podcast with Alexa. It's simple and it's free. Just visit afr.net/apps and click Alexa. We're not joking.
If you watch carefully, many schools at early ages use porn videos for sex educating kids, and parents don't even know it.
This weekend on Encouragement Live, apologist and author Josh McDowell.
The biggest thing is mom and dad's relationship and a biblical view of sexuality.
This is Don Hawkins. Join us for Encouragement Live with Josh McDowell, Saturday at 7:05 p.m. Central here on American Family Radio.
In churches, and a lot of churches today, the issue of identity is sort of like the big elephant in the room. It's in the news, but it's not in the church. So if it's in society, it needs to be something the churches are addressing.
In His Image, delighting in God's plan for gender and sexuality, is now available for church screenings and events.
Every person in America needs to see this.
And all pastors need to show this to the church, get the people informed. If the church and Jesus isn't the answer, where's the world going?
We want the message of the film to touch as many hearts and lives as possible, and we'd love to join with you to bring the film to your community. So let's say you have a small group or your church, or we've even been bringing the film into some prisons. We want to partner partner with you. So what we'll do is we'll send you a special kit, and it's completely free, and it'll just have some extra resources to help you promote your event.
To find out more about how to host an event, go to inhisimage.movie and click on the Host an Event tab. That's inhisimage.movie.
This is the sound of not just one, not just two, but 3 heartbeats. Heartbeats that were birthed through the ministry of preborn. The heartbeat of a preborn baby can be heard as early as 6 weeks on ultrasound. The sound of a heartbeat changes everything.
I came seeking termination, but once I got here and I took an ultrasound, I was overjoyed when I found out that I was having 3 baby boys.
The Ministry of Preborn is the largest provider of free heartbeats for moms in crisis in America and the direct competition to Planned Parenthood. By letting a mother see her baby on ultrasound and hear the heartbeat, she'll choose life 80% of the time, and this time there were 3. To find out more, go to preborn.com or dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250 and say baby. Your love can save a life.
Beat that music. Let's go. Man, I done had it. Dude, you can have it. Cactus only going to church to learn to stack the cabbage. Multiple collections, man, agreed is wreaking havoc. Dudes becoming preachers cause they want to be living lavish. Man, this is madness. Pastors is savage. Passing the plate just to pass in the maverick. Pass through the script just to pass on the passage. That may detract from a pack that is massive. And it's a
Welcome back to Aaron the Addisons on American Family Radio. It is the Friday edition. It's our Friday Gumbo Show. Everything within reason goes into the pot. Hey, I'm Miki. It's Friday. We made it.
Mm-hmm. And I'm Will. And that's Abraham. That's Chosen One.
Come on. Protect the innocent.
That's Chosen One with BSAC music.
Wonderful. Okay, so the phone lines are loaded up. 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. I also got a request from Sherry B. to repeat the website to the Creation Science organization. It is T as in Tom, A, S as in Sam, C as in cat. So it's TASC-creationscience.org. TASC-creationscience.org. So you can check that out when you have a moment to do so. All right, well, where do we go?
All right, let's go to Ronnie in Alabama. Hi, Ronnie.
Hey, Brother Will and Miss Mickey. Man, this sure is beautiful over here in Alabama today. I hope it's just as nice wherever y'all are.
Yes.
I was calling. I wanted to make a comment concerning, well, from my perspective, the attack. This, speaking nation-wise. Mm-hmm. The attack on our young children. Mm-hmm. I'm a granddaddy. I could be very easily be a great granddaddy. And I put myself. Well, I got a great nephew, mm-hmm. and I live with him. Okay. In the family. Mm-hmm. And whenever he's around, and he asks me questions, and the things I see him observing. And just that childlike mentality of his. Mm. Therefore, I say from my perspective, this is an assault on all young children.
Yeah.
He's 5 years old, and when I think about him going to his public schools and this advertisement y'all had right before y'all let me on to speak with y'all, what it was talking about, and it said specifically in the ad, verbatim, and the parents don't know it.
Mm. Come on.
I pray the Lord, just send this spirit of awareness to the regular, like these. Just think of the millions of young couples raising a young family.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sending them to public school because they don't have a lot of options. That's their best option.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't know what's happening to their innocent young children. I hope maybe AFA and Brother Will and Miss Mickey and Brother McFarland and just everybody in the whole organization pitch in together and start a crusade around America
an awareness crusade.
Mm.
'Cause we as saved people need to stand against this.
Let me tell you something. Just speaking of that, because you mentioned Brother McFarland, Dr. Alex McFarland, great friend of ours. We're going to be spending a week with Dr. McFarland in North Carolina at a week-long youth camp where the Addisons, along with Dr. McFarland and a couple others, are going to be teaching cultural apologetics. We're going to be teaching young people how to stand in this culture. So when we talk about critical race theory, when we talk about the radical sexual agenda, deviant sexual agenda that's out there, oftentimes we are talking to parents and we're trying to teach parents how to teach their kids. But you have to also realize that while you've got secularists who are teaching parents, in some ways, they are also directly teaching kids. They are directly teaching kids. So one of the things that we're going to be doing for this entire week is directly teaching kids how to stand on the inerrant word of God. So all of my presentations will be doctored and fixed and hopefully sufficient to minister directly to our kids so that they understand how to take hold of the truth that has been entrusted to them and defend their faith. Because what we want, yes, we want parents to be able to equip their children, but we want these children to understand what it is that they have accepted and what it is that they say they believe, and then how to defend that in culture. And so you make an excellent point, Ronnie. I really appreciate you calling in. And man, I can, just get a strong sense of the grief in your voice. And I think you're right in your observation that it's a shame so many parents are unaware. Yeah. But I will tell you, by God's grace, and as long as he allows us, that's one of the major reasons we continue to hammer on these topics, is because we believe that there are so many parents who are unaware. The culture is hoping that you'll just move on from this. Just aren't you tired? Just stop talking about it. We're not going to stop talking about it. Amen. Brother Ronnie, thank you so much for your call. We appreciate you. Will the Great, where do we go next?
All right, let's go to Carol in Tennessee. Hi, Carol.
Hi. I want to thank you all for what you do.
Thank you.
I just want to let you know that the Lord used your show this past week about Disney to inspire me to try to get into the action. I posted on my Facebook that Disney's been actively walking away from family values for years.
Come on.
And that Disney thinks traditional families will do nothing. And I encourage people to cancel their Disney Plus subscriptions and their Disney vacations. I'm just absolutely astonished at the where we're going as a culture. It just blows my mind. Yeah. And I'm older than you all. I'm 62, but I remember 40 years ago when Victoria's Secret was first hitting the malls, and Christians did nothing.
Wow.
They did nothing. They supported the underworld. It just was. And 4 or 5 years ago, when American Family Radio first started trying to get people to boycott Target, and my friends wouldn't boycott Target, and I was just astonished.
Yeah.
I just thought, how can you not boycott Target?
Right.
So, anyway,
and it's
I appreciate you all and what you do, and God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Carol.
much for that, Carol. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate hearing about your action. That you put some action to your outrage. I really do appreciate that. And, it's so interesting, Carol, the point that you're making about Target. When we started the Target boycott, by the grace of God, it just really took off. And it told us something here at the American Family Association about people in our country that often get overlooked. There are people in our country who are not even religious, right? But they understand okay, to be nice, I'll say the danger, but to just be blunt, the stupidity that is trying to erase the sexes, right? And so I remember doing interviews around this, and I remember I was on a secular outlet with a man who had invited me on as a spokesperson for the American Family Association, and he told me point blank, he said, I'm not a Christian. He goes, so I don't agree with your worldview. He goes, but I signed the boycott Target pledge because, he goes, I have children. And he goes, and I think it's ridiculous that a man can go into a dressing room where my daughters could potentially be changing their clothes. He goes, I don't understand the world we live in. And I said to him, well, I hope that you would come to know Jesus Christ. But I am also glad that you can see that this is insane, even though you do not. You know what I mean? And so I'm saying that to say to you, Carol, that even as you're astonished that there were so many Christians who were just kind of checked out, even people in the world were kind of dialed in on this. We're like, hey, now this is a bridge too far. Yeah. This is too much. And so shame on us as Christians that we didn't have the strength or the audacity to tell the truth about how God has designed male and female bodies. All right. Well, the great. Where do we go next?
All right. Let's go to Todd in Louisiana. Hi, Todd.
Hey, y'all.
Hey.
Thanks for taking my call. I just want to say about the new Supreme Court justice. She was asked a question that she can't define what a woman is.
Yeah.
And my comment to that is, all she's got to do is look in the mirror.
Come on.
I'm a man, okay, and I can define what a woman is.
Right.
She's the most beautiful creature that God has created. And if it wouldn't be for a woman, none of us would be here. And I'm going to hang up and listen to y'all.
Oh,
Thank
God
you,
bless
Todd.
you, Todd. That's so dear, right? I mean, it's amazing though that we are in this culture walking contradictions, right? Because at the same time that we want to champion women, we are actively erasing them.
Right.
Like, just think about that. So like, why, we're supposed to get excited about Ketanji Brown Jackson. Like, we're supposed to get excited about that. But how can we do that? Because she's the first Black what to possibly sit on the highest bench in the land. Like what is, we don't know what we don't, because we're not, many of us, with the exception of our brother Van, we're not biologists, so we don't know if she's a woman or not. It's just it's a work of contradiction that is so tragic that you can't laugh at it anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's really truly sad. So anyway, thank you so much, Todd, for your call. We appreciate you. Will the Great, where do we go next?
All right, let's go to Melanie in Louisiana. Hi, Melanie.
Hi, Will. Hey, Mickey. How are y'all doing today?
Hey,
Great.
doing well. How are you?
Good. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. I wanted to kind of piggyback on what the previous caller said about Miss Jackson. And it seems like everybody's in an uproar because she couldn't define what a woman was. But I kind of gonna just let her have that because that's who they, when I say they, I mean in the left, are. But I was more outraged by the fact that she couldn't clearly tell us, and I can't remember the way the senator phrased the question, but she couldn't really say what her faith was or what her, I don't know if she said what's your religion or what your faith was, and she kind of, if you notice the pause when she answered it, and then she quickly said, I'm a Protestant. But as a Christian, for me, if somebody asked me that, I would say I'm a Christian. Period.
Yes.
And then she kind of threw on the back end of that Protestant. You know, kind of like identifying herself as, as a Christian. So
yes.
I just wanted to make that observation and see what y'all thought about that. Thanks.
Hey, listen, that is an excellent observation. And I think from the point that you're making here, you understand the implications of that. Why? Because the name of Christ is an offense. Because the name of Christ is an offense. And so even to call yourself a Christian is to invoke his name, right? And so to invite to yourself the type of ire that would be the invitation of anyone who bears his name. I would say any person who does not feel like they know when life begins, another question she evaded, she feels like she doesn't really know when, like, she doesn't really know, like guys, listen, and I know we got a call yesterday. Our brother said, Miki, I'd like to nominate you to the Supreme Court. Listen, I'm not qualified. Okay. I'm not qualified. I don't have the credentials. I don't have the stuff, like even that, I don't have the stuff to be able to do it. I don't even know what it's called. Right. I think what is the bona fides? I don't know. That the difference between that and gumbo filet. I don't know what it is. And so I couldn't do the job, but I got to tell you, listening to some of these answers to some of these questions that were intentionally evasive okay, so can we just have a real talk moment here to our sister Melanie and to all of our listeners here? Let me just say something. And guys, this is 100% raw. This is one of my thoughts that I had. I thought what a downgrade that the black woman would be invited to serve on the highest court in the land and be applauded for all of her accomplishments, and then by a bunch of liberals forced to make herself look so stupid. What a shame.
Wow.
What a shame to say, to acknowledge her parents and to talk about how they gave her an African name and how they wanted to acknowledge her African heritage and her, so to speak, standing on the shoulders of all of these people who lived lives so that she could achieve and accomplish so much in this great country and all of the things that she said, and then proceeds after that to look like a complete idiot. I'm not a biologist. I can't tell you what a woman is. How embarrassing. Do you know the slaves that would be embarrassed over that answer?
Man, come on.
Can I talk to a Harriet Tubman who would say, you don't know what? You don't know what? I mean, that's not. Oh, okay. Anyway, sorry, y'all.
How do you really feel, Miki?
I just would say that's the kind of person that you leave on the plantation. That's the kind of person that you say, I'm not taking you. If I'm Harriet Tubman, I'm not taking you. You don't know what a woman is? You stay on the plantation till you figure it out. But the rest of us, we finna go. I'm sorry. Fitna is not a word. But guys, do you see how ironic it is that you could have a person who's achieved so much and we're all supposed to applaud her. We're all supposed to celebrate. Oh, look at what the black woman has done. The first black woman. And then she sits there and she makes herself look like a complete idiot. What an embarrassment to black people. I'm sorry. But that's my unedited comments. That's what I think about in the quiet of my own home that I just shared with y'all. I'm sorry. Maybe we'll edit that out of the show, Will the Great.
No, we keeping it.
Now let's
keeping it.
Let's edit that out.
No. It's Gumbo Friday. Almost
sorry.
anything goes in. So
yeah.
That wasn't corn, so it's staying.
Man, y'all, I just get upset about this stuff. And a lot of it I do kind of hold back. And I'm just like, okay, let me just stick to our lane here. This is what we, but sometimes I look at this and I go, man, y'all.
Look, our lane is truth. That's truth.
Amen.
So, hey,
amen.
It's under the umbrella of our lane.
You're right. I love you. Okay, we're out of time.
You too.
Thank you so much for listening all week. Send all of your comments to Will the Great. Until Monday, Lord willing.
God bless.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association.